Hello and welcome to the Upgrade School Marketing Podcast. My name is Matt Soul. I'm the Director of Marketing and Communications at Chapel Hill Chauncey Hall School.
And I'm Angie Ward. I'm the president of Enroll Media Group. We're a digital marketing agency for schools.
What's going on, Angie? How are you?
I'm doing great. Keeping busy. What about you, Matt?
We made it through. We made it through the spring, into the summer. Everybody, if you're listening, congratulations. And I hope the spring was all right. It was pretty wild, I think, for a lot of people. A lot of things going on for sure. But yeah, summertime. Summertime is here. What's your focus for the summer, Angie? What are you working on at EMG?
Yeah, well, May is a whirlwind, as you know, for school. So the summer is really a time for them to reset, update all of their digital properties out there, right? All the school-centric ones and things like that with new tuition information, enrollment information, getting those fresh photos on there and really kind of updating their website and these properties to plan ahead for the fall. So those are always our summer projects, helping schools with those things. What about
Yeah.
you? What are you working on?
It's going to be a lot of video editing in the summer. We really captured a lot of student stories that we were putting out as a series. And yeah, the spring was just kind of mad dash and capturing everything. And now the summers we get to actually put it together, edit these and plan and putting them out. So I'm excited to see all these come together. So.
And are you going to be using AI to help with that? Because that is the topic of today's
That is the
podcast.
topic of today. Yeah, actually AI was a help in some of the notes that we took. We did pre-interviews with students and we wrote down all the things. It's all about their journey and their story. So we took all these notes about their life before the school, how Chapel Hill has impacted their life, where they are now, where they're going. And I actually did take that big, messy page of notes in a Google Doc and put it through AI to say, can you give me sort of a theme and can you put this into a script and to do that? And it was a really cool kind of first draft. It needed some editing, but it did give some really great ideas in the order of how things would be presented. So yes,
Awesome.
in the theme of today's episode, we did use some AI for that.
That's
And yet,
great.
and today we're talking to Reggie Johnson. So Reggie is ready to talk about all things AI. There's some really, really great tips in here. Reggie's a strategist. He's a creator and a manager of digital media and content for a private school in Fort Worth. And he has over 20 years experience sharing brand shaping stories that increase interest and engagement. He gives presentations on future-proofing your brand's SEO for AI and beyond. And he has his own 3-step process to leverage your online presence for success in the changing world of search and AI result optimization. And as a little teaser, he does go through this 3-step process in this episode here. And it's a really great way to not only think about AI, but also just to think about your school's marketing holistically in general for everything that you're doing. So it's a really, really great talk.
All right, let's jump into our conversation with Reggie.
Reggie, thank you so much for joining us today. How are things in Texas?
It's rainy and thundering right now.
All right, same as here. Well, less thunder, but it is rainy and dark and gloomy here. So we're the same in Waltham. But thank you so much for joining. We're super excited to jump into all the topics today.
Thank you. I'm really happy to be here.
Great. So Reggie, before we dive into today's show topic of AI, we'd love to hear from you just for a minute or so on your approach overall to school marketing.
Well, as the digital media and content manager for a private school in Fort Worth, I tend to take an integrated, holistic, maybe search to the web where I'm fond of saying that your website may be your cornerstone of your online presence, but it's only one of many touch points across the digital landscape which shape the narrative of your brand. And this is for brands in general as well as for schools. And some of those touch points you have control over, some of them you have influence over, but not control. And some of them you have neither influence nor control. And I think being aware of that is important because the more that you can develop the full online expression of your brand, the more that it can help you in trust and reputation, which is ultimately what I'm about, building trust and reputation across the digital landscape. And I've been working recently a lot on how AI is changing search and how more people are trying to get questions answered quickly rather than going on a surfing expedition like you did in my days. And you should try this sometime for your listeners. If you go to a like Google or one of the search engines and just type in one of your target queries, like private schools in Worcester or private schools in Athens, Georgia, whatever, and just see what comes up. What you'll notice is that it's not just a list of blue links. There's a variety of enhanced, rich features. And it's interesting to want to see where those came from. You'll probably pull up the local pack, which is a map and has the SEO like 3 closest listings, and you can get more from the local pack. Where does that come from? Does it come from your website? No, that part probably comes from your Google business profile. There may be some integration of social media rich snippets that might come from your social feeds. There may be reviews from other places and links to places like Niche. We know that's important for us school marketers, most of us anyway, niche.com. And there may as well be other industry listings. There may be images from galleries that you've posted, and hopefully a link to your website, hopefully a link to your Google business profile. So the point is, looking at where these things are coming from is important because it's not all just coming from your website, and you're not the only one telling your story. Now, when it comes to AI search, go to your favorite AI chat, whether it's ChatGPT or Claude or even Perplexity, which is more on the Q&A side, and say, what are the best private schools in, and then put your market there and see what it comes up with. And just then try to figure out where is it getting its information from. Now, the direction things are going from a number of industry experts is more of an integrated experience for AI, where AI is going to pull in a wide variety of sources into the chat, images, reviews, give you a holistic look at this integrated picture, which is really meshes well with my approach to an integrated, holistic approach to the web and to the online world, because all those touch points are going to be in the LLMs. And the LLMs, the AI chatbots, are all about predictive projections, probability projections. And so that's why I've kind of come up with this CET, this 3-letter approach to making your search great for both search engines and AI and whatever comes beyond, because it's based on best practices, it's based on some research, it's based on some theoretical logic. But stands for consistency across the digital landscape, thinking in terms of your digital touch points, as we talked about, your presence on listings, social media, niche, we mentioned, other touch points beyond just your website, and the consistency of the important details, your address, your name, your phone number, those need to be the same. Those are all reinforcing details for the LLMs as well as for Google search, and emphasizing your unique selling propositions and your differentiators consistently. You probably have a Google profile up, but have you emphasized your unique selling proposition and your differentiators there? Are you consistently emphasizing those? Some would go so far as to follow the advice of Kai Wright, a branding expert, who talks about building a branded vocabulary, a lexicon. Now, here, humor me for a second, Matt and Angie. Will you finish this sentence for me? A diamond is
Forever.
there. That's one of the greatest brand vocabulary. The slogan of the 20th century, De Beers Natural Diamonds, of Diamond is Forever, changed the way that people propose in the Western world. They didn't used to give diamond rings, but that campaign made it happen. So most private schools aren't on a national brands like that, but in your region, the more that you can state your differentiators and unique selling proposition in a way that's specific to your brand while communicating your message and being clear. We don't want to out fancy our audience with jargon, but and the more that you can own that, and the more that you're likely to reinforce those key points for the LLMs. And then the E part of this is to make it engaging for humans and easy for bots. Remember, you're serving humans, you're solving for humans, provide value to humans, be aware of search intent. Not everybody's looking for the cliff notes. So think about who's searching that actually wants to see your website, what kind of content will be helpful for them. And then that's the engaging for humans also involves putting media there. You should have some really good quality photos depicting your differentiators and unique selling proposition on your Google business profile, as well as other listings like niche and places where you can do that for free. Some places allow you to include it, some don't. Private school review is another place, but Video is increasingly a platform that you want to have content on. And so engaging for humans, and then for bots, making it easy for bots involves using structured data. Go to schema.org and learn about the different schemas you can use where appropriate. That makes it easier for the bots to pull the info, including LLMs and search engines. And also using the consistency that we talked about is also helpful in this regard, as we talked about in the C point. And accessibility best practices also are good generally for bots as well. And so, the bots are trying to provide the best user experience for humans. So being strategically aligned with them by trying to solve for humans first, not for the bots, is really valuable here. But you can also make it easier for the bots. And so having numerous, high quality photos, multimedia, and stuff like that that represents your brand gives them more places to pull in from as we get to this integrated experience in AI searches. And then the final thing, T, is trust and reputation, building trust and reputation. Scott Baradell in his book, Trust Signals, said something I really like, which is the most valuable thing you can do for your SEO is invest in PR, public relations, because Google knows who the media is talking about, and so do the LLMs. They know who's being talked about, and those probably count more what a news article says about you than what you say about yourself. They're aware of this even without a backlink. So investing in PR is very valuable. And also, garnering reviews. Now, not on Google, because most of you probably know that Google froze their school reviews back in 2018, unfortunately. So those of you that are still stuck in that crystallized moment in time without being able to improve it, it can be very frustrating, I know. But other places with reviews, niche and like Facebook, for example, other places that are recommended, garnering reviews and providing opportunities for connection and positive experiences with your brand. A lot of that can happen on social. So that's the CET, consistency across the digital landscape, engaging for humans and easy for bots, and building trust and reputation. Because hacks are temporary, gaming the system is short term, but trust and reputation keep on building forever. So that's a quick overview of my approach.
That is
That's
great.
amazing. Yeah.
Love,
And
love
I
that
think,
acronym.
I think
CET.
it's, yeah. The thing I really like about that too is I feel like in the world of quick answers and a lot of, fast things, you hear a lot of advice that is more about gaming the system. You always hear like quick advice that is about quick fixes for this, or quick like how to improve your ranking this quickly. But I really like that it's not about that. It's about doing the work that is going to be beneficial for everybody and would just be helping you regardless of AI or Google, just what you need to be putting out there for families to see. So
You may be
I
doing this
yeah.
already. You may
Yeah.
already be doing all these things. It's just a matter of shifting your perspective on SEO in the future of search.
Yep. So so that's what, like, what the search could look like in a way to impact it. As far as just for school marketers, we're talking to a lot of school marketers who any time of year are doing a lot of different things, are really juggling a lot. And so how do you see AI shifting the way that they're working?
I think one of the biggest changes to the role of school marketers, because as you said, they're doing a lot. Most school marketers are wearing many hats. Is that AI has the potential, and the biggest upside, perhaps, is to help them be more effective with those different hats. You know, for example, school marketers that aren't designers, graphic designers, can use Canva. We'll get more into some of the ethical issues with some of the other generative systems later, but it can empower you. Maybe you're not necessarily consider yourself strong at writing, but you can use Grammarly to help you with your grammar. You can use other tools to help you generate a first draft, or to help you come up with ideas for your Google ad headlines. So I'm just saying that this can help you be more effective with your different hats. I think it's also affecting school marketers, particularly if you're doing content marketing. There is something I call the chop tofu effect, because a lot of content marketers are seeing their tofu, top of funnel content, getting eaten up by the generative search features in search engines already, where they're taking your content marketing and they're using it to answer questions without them even going to your website. And so that's chop tofu. They're chopping off the top of the funnel. And how you respond to that is there's a number of ways. Some people say that the percentage of zero click search results pages is 17 to 26%, depending on if you're on a cell phone or a mobile phone or on desktop. but also the pure number of searches that result in a click is going up. So is it search refinement, or is it people refining their searches, or is it actually that the content is being used to answer the question without people going through to your website? I think that's something that's going to continue to happen as people go to AIs. It's going to chop off that top of funnel content. So thinking about where people are wanting to see your website and engage with it, or perhaps your strategy is how to get into those rich snippets so that your top of funnel content can maybe get a reference or a link back, or at least emphasize what's important to you in your school. STEM is really important for private schools. Maybe you're a STEM school and you're wanting to answer questions with that. So that's another thing that's going to change for school marketers. Not all school marketers are doing content marketing. That's just one thought on that. And I think different people have different levels of comfort with AI usage and disclosure. And this brings up a lot of questions about policy, about ethics, about leadership in the AI world. And it's hard for school marketers because if we're telling students this is an academic integrity issue, are we being hypocritical by turning around and using it to do our marketing work? And at what point, where does that all fit? I think schools are in a precarious position. So those are some of the ways it's going to change. But I do think humans will always be needed and always need to be involved, particularly in environments like school marketing, where I think some companies are moving too quick to try to get rid of humans and replace them with AI. But I think that you're going to see hopefully less of that in school environments.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I'd love to dive a little bit into the weeds with AI tools specifically. Are there any AI tools you can kind of rattle off in terms of ones that are helping school marketers like yourself or others in your space?
Yeah, a lot of people are using Grammarly. People that do press releases in general will often use that to help them, make sure everything's accurate as far as the grammar and the punctuation and whatnot. Jasper is another common one I hear mentioned. A lot of people start with a Chat GPT or a Claude or a Gemini or a Copilot to kind of create a dirty first draft or an outline, however it helps you, or using those same sources to ideate. Canva, again, we mentioned, is very popular for people that don't consider themselves graphic designers. I have one person who, for the local PRSA chapter, does event graphics for me in Canva, and he does a terrific job, and it saves me a lot of time because I would do it in Photoshop because I'm old school that way with graphic design. I'm an old school graphic designer. So, and then also another good tool is like there are very niche tools, like something like descript.com. I was recently had some video editing added to my plate because another coworker wasn't able to finish a project on those, and I was able to help out by doing that. And one of the ways was I started with Descript, which allows you to edit video based on the script, the transcript. So you can select where the quotes are that you want to keep, and it will edit the video using AI according to the words you keep in the transcript. And that really saved me a lot of time for editing it down to just the quotes we needed and taking out the questions in the interview and that kind of a thing. So, I mean, there are tools like that. People can do some research. And I think one thing also is custom GPTs from the GPT store is another whole area we could get into where there are customized ones to analyze data. And, Chat GPT, and I think, I don't remember if Copilot does this as well. You can upload like an analytics report. I recently did this with Chat GPT. I uploaded my quarterly website and digital analytics report, a PDF, 20 pages, because I give these huge documents to leadership, which is really too much for them. I need to be pulling out key points. And I said, can you summarize the important points from it? And I was actually pretty impressed with the job it did because it noticed some things that were subtle, but see, I analyze data, so I know what to look for. And this gets to the whole area. If you're an expert, it can be helpful because you know whether it's right or not. But if you're not an expert, you might need it. And if you are an expert, you might not need it. But it pointed out, for example, it pulled from a very kind of obscure place that the engagement coming from niche.com was relatively high compared to other sources, which is something I'm aware of because I know our data. And I was like, that's pretty impressive that it pulled that little factoid, as well as some other things. And, some of it was pretty mundane, but some of what I pulled for highlights is pretty mundane too. So, it's neat to be able to analyze like data like that. And that usually is in the main chat tools that have a document reading capability. So those are some. I also is, getting into image generation. A lot of people are doing that. There's DALL-E, and Midjourney now is going to get its own app and not just be in Discord for those that don't like using the Discord interface. But Adobe Firefly claims to be ethically sourced and licensed. If you're concerned about the ethics of taking bread away from artists, and using their copyrighted material, Adobe Firefly claims to be sharing money with the people they've used the art of or the photography of, and their training data, and it claims to have trained itself on their licensed data, their own licensed photos, their own licensed images. So ethically sourced AI is a big growing field, and you're going to see more and more tools come out of that.
Very
I
cool.
I want to jump into a specific. We have a lot of people again who are just looking and like what can they do to make an impact on these things. So one in particular you had mentioned a little while ago is like the tofu top of the funnel that it's scraping. So what would you recommend to a school actual tactics that they steps to take to to make an impact on that in particular? What should they be doing right now that is going to make the most impact holistically, but also for AI?
Like thinking in the area I think when it comes to content, if that's what we're talking about, I think that creating evergreen content that relates to questions that people might ask who are actually going to apply to your school. We have an article on sportsmanship, which is a great article. It went viral as far as SEO is concerned. A lot of people come to our site from it. Maybe 1/3 of our organic non-brand searches are for sportsmanship. We're very high up and just searching for sportsmanship because this article written by our former athletics director, it's a great article, don't get me wrong, but it's not necessarily part of what people are asking when they're looking to apply for a school. And a lot of content marketing is focused on getting people on your site and then further down the funnel. But you have to think, are you really even part of the funnel with something like that? This could be somebody anywhere in the country, around the world, investigating sportsmanship for a high school paper on sportsmanship, and they happen to find the site. So I think thinking about search intent, which we mentioned earlier, is as part of the CET, thinking about search intent, and think about, the kinds of questions that would be helpful to people that are searching for a private school or a Catholic school, whatever category of school you might be, charter school, looking for one of those in your area. What's going to help them along their search? And also, what I've seen recommended recently is creating content that takes them through the whole journey that they might be going through. So it's kind of a more focused version of, maybe you wouldn't even call it content marketing because you're not putting out as much, but thinking about the whole journey and all the questions. We've heard about topic clusters that people create for content marketing. Topic clusters are good, but just thinking of that whole journey and how can you address their points along it, because this is something where you can get referenced in the AIs, especially if you're just answering these helpful questions. Also, framing pages that are about that in question and answer format is supposed to help. That's right now. That's one of those more current game the system kind of techniques that I've read about just the other day, in fact. Some of those kinds of things, and those things will change. I mean, those things change on almost a weekly basis, but right now, looking at that journey and asking those questions, I think the evergreen content about the journey and where they're at and helping people as they're deciding what school to send their kids to, or the kids themselves, I think that's always going to be helpful. That's part of like CET, your permanent branding thing. That's why I kind of focus on the evergreen content rather than the stuff that's just to get people onto your site, just to get people in the door. It's almost like a doorbuster. You don't necessarily want to go that way because I think that's the kind of content that's going to get cut off and is not necessarily bringing you, is likely to bring you conversions anyway. But a content marketer would probably disagree with me and explain to me why all this other content is helpful. So this is just my perspective.
Yeah, no, that's a great perspective. That makes a lot of sense. Thank you. We'd love to jump into the ethical concerns, and you alluded to some of this already, but what are you seeing in terms of ethical concerns around AI for school marketers, and what advice do you have for them?
Well, I'll start first with the ethical concerns. Some of the concerns around AI is the power consumption. Data centers in places of the world where there's water shortages, but yet there's always enough water. They're ensured there's enough water for the data centers. Crypto was a huge, some people called it a disaster in terms of how much of the power grid it takes up just to run. And AI is looking like it's going to be even more. And there's not a lot of concern about that. And the amount of cloud computing required to run AI, that's an ethical concern that people have to think about. There's also the concerns with, as we mentioned earlier, taking copyrighted material. We're seeing a lot of lawsuits right now, and ChatGPT is working to license stuff. They'll probably work to just keep their product open, because if they refuse to create a deal with someone, it would be very hard to delete ChatGPT or that was used illegally, harvested data to train. And even knowing what that means to delete the product is kind of different. You don't really know um, how the data is stored, and that speaks to the idea of private data, and also sharing, data. The fact that there's a lot of reports on how they're learning stuff about you, and they're tracking you. But there's that kind of stuff about Facebook too. I mean, there's an article recently about Facebook, and they're spying on Snapchat users. Just I think in March came out some released documents that they were somehow using a method on people's iPhones to track the Snapchat traffic. So, we can't just pick on AI, but those are some of the concerns. I think one of the biggest concerns, though, is the lack of guidance, because a lot of organizations, and I think it's like 8 in 10 educators, say that their school district does not have an AI policy or guidelines. And I know it's something that's very lacking. Organizations in general have an opportunity to take leadership by creating an AI policy and guidelines for employees. And those may be one document, it could be separate documents. And a lot of them, it's time to step up and take a leadership role about providing transparency for the public and guidelines for their own employees, which is separate than a policy for students, because obviously you have academic integrity. And like I said, schools are in a tricky spot with this. I don't envy the leadership, the heads of schools that have to make these decisions, because there are concerns. There are, but the employees, studies show the employees are using it anyway. And some of them are doing things like the famous case of the lawyer who used it to write a brief for a court case. And it cited a bunch of cases that didn't exist. He didn't know, no one had trained him, and this was early in the game of ChatGPT. But, I think providing some basic training for it, or sending people to training to be aware. I was at an in-person professional development recently with a professor from Tarleton State University, Fort Worth, and she did a really good job. She brought out a document that said, which of these would you feel it's necessary to disclose you used AI? And it had a list of like 10 things. And the thing is, people are different in terms of which they think it's necessary to disclose, which they would or wouldn't do, and where they draw that line, which is why it's probably important for schools and brands in general to be talking about these things, and what kind of guidelines they're gonna provide for their employees. So because there are different questions, and it's not easy, it's not a clear, easy answer.
Definitely is not. Definitely is. Reggie, there's so much here. It really is great to hear the holistic approach to this. I hadn't heard this before. I've heard a lot of quick snippets on that, but it really doubling down on the things that we've been wanting to do and doing for years, and knowing that it's just going to only help in the new areas that are emerging, in addition to helping in the existing ones, is something that is really great. So thank you so much for sharing all of that. So people who want to hear more from you, where can they find you, Reggie?
I think LinkedIn is the best place to find me. My URL is Reggie Johnson 1, the number 1. But you can search for Reggie Johnson Fort Worth, and you'll probably find me. But yeah, I have an article on there about the holistic approach to the web. I'm working on updating it for organizing the different tips in the CET format, so that'll be out soon. But I do post a lot about AI on there, and other things related to marketing, branding, and whatnot. And I will say, one thing I would recommend to people, especially if you're thinking about the ethics, is check out the PRSA, the Public Relations Society of America's recent supplement for AI called The Ethical Use of AI for Public Relations Practitioners. It's based on their core values, their core ethical statements that most public relations practitioners are familiar with. And I feel like it does a good job going through situations and ethics in relation to this. It may not touch on all the things we talked about with ethics, but it's a good starting place to make sure you're thinking about the implications of what you're doing.
That's great.
Awesome.
We'll link out, yeah, we'll link out to that, and we'll link out to your article too. So if anybody's looking for that on the episode page, upgradeschoolmarketing.com, we'll have links to that as well. So Reggie, thank you so much again. We got to definitely have you back. This will be something that continues to have new news and updates a lot. So we gotta talk more about it for sure. And I really appreciate it.
I'd love
Thank
that.
you.
I'd love that opportunity. Thank you for having me.
Thank you again to Reggie. That was a packed with info. I have my whole sheet of notes here on all the things. I really love the CET approach: consistency, engagement, trust, and just the fact, I know I've said it twice throughout the talk and say it again, but just the fact that they're, in a busy school marketer time, which is always, anything that can be multi-use, it's not just a one-off, is something that is great. When you can do something and you post it and it is helpful in a few different ways, it just makes it that much more important and that much more valuable. And to hear that the approach to AI is really just doubling down on those things that work well for current families, testimonials, putting out content that is helpful to them at the stage they're in, really being consistent across all your sites, like doing all those things, knowing that that is actually going to help you in the new technology that's coming up that you know about and you might not know about, is really great to hear. So thank you, Reggie,
Yeah.
for sharing all of that.
Yeah, there's a lot of reassuring tips there also. I'm a school marketer, but as an agency owner, there's a lot that we need to be thinking about, and there's ways that we can be working smarter with some of these tools as well. So I definitely have a lot to take away from that podcast. It was great.
Yeah, and we'll link out again. If you are not on the page and you're listening to this, if you go onto the episode page, upgradeschoolmarketing.com, on this episode, we will have links to the different chat apps that were mentioned, the different AI apps and articles, and everything will be on there. So a lot of resources that you can find on there. So Angie, it is A+ time. Do you have a school that you would like to highlight as our A+ school?
I do. This school is called New England Innovation Academy, NIA. They're a day and boarding school located in Marlborough, Massachusetts, and they're getting the A+ this episode because they had a fantastic meta ads campaign called Boundary Breakers that really highlighted student work and how they are breaking boundaries in traditional education. And it was a great campaign, a lot of great copy points, images, excellent storytelling, and it performed really well for them. So Nia
Great.
gets the A+ this time.
What type of ads did they do? Was it like image ads or
Image
carousels or
ads,
videos
yep,
or?
carousels and dynamic ads mainly on
Oh,
Facebook
great.
and Instagram, and they worked really well. Yeah.
Very cool. Well, great. That's great work. And again, we'll link out to them so you can see that as well. And to see future episodes, make sure to go onto our LinkedIn page, Upgrade School Marketing, and to upgradeschoolmarketing.com to subscribe, where we'll send you a new episode first. So thank you all again for listening. We'll see you soon.